An arrogant cop, annoyed by the chubby maid who saw something he missed, publicly dared her to solve the case. "You get one shot," he sneered, pointing his pen at her. "Fail, and you're fired." The lobby of the Apex Tower was a cathedral of wealth, all polished marble, hushed tones, and the faint, expensive scent of lilies mixed with old money. For Lena Morales, it smelled of ammonia and industrial floor polish. For the past 5 years, she'd been a ghost in this magnificent machine, her gray uniform an oversized cleaning cart designed for invisibility. She was the one who erased the day's smudges, the one who made the brass gleam, a silent witness to a world that never truly saw her. Until today. Today, the cathedral was desecrated by a shrill, panicked voice. "It's gone. My diamond earring. It was a gift from my husband." Mrs. Harrington, a woman whose pearls were probably worth more than Lena's yearly salary, was gesturing wildly. At the center of the commotion stood Officer Miller. Young, with a jawline that could cut glass and eyes the color of a winter sky, he radiated an unearned authority. He was taking notes on a small pad, his expression a practiced blend of concern and utter boredom. He asked the standard questions, his gaze sweeping over the doorman, the valet, and lingering for a fraction of a second too long on Lena as she wiped down a glass table nearby. The implication was clear: if something was stolen, it was one of them. "Ma'am, we'll look at the security footage," he said in a placating tone. It was probably just misplaced. As Lena pushed her cart past the towering ficus plant, her eyes, trained by years of noticing what others missed, caught something. A faint, dark scuff mark on the edge of the plush Persian rug, right where Mrs. Harrington had been standing. It wasn't a footprint. It was a thin, deliberate line. She paused, her brow furrowed. Quietly, almost apologetically, she approached. "Excuse me, officer," she murmured, keeping her eyes down. "Over there, on the rug, there's a mark." Miller glanced at her, his lips tightening in annoyance. He'd been enjoying the attention, the role of the knight in shining armor. The last thing he needed was an interruption from the help. He strode over, gave the mark a cursory glance, and scoffed. "It's a scuff, sweetheart. This is a high-traffic area." "It doesn't look like it came from a shoe," Lena insisted softly. "It's too narrow." That was it. The snap. Miller saw his audience, the cluster of wealthy residents and nervous staff, and an ugly, theatrical idea bloomed in his mind. He turned, a cruel smirk playing on his lips, and raised his voice so everyone in the cavernous lobby could hear. Well, what do we have here?" he boomed, a showman taking the stage. "A regular Sherlock Holmes in a janitor's uniform. You think you know something a trained police officer doesn't?" He gestured expansively towards the scene of the crime. "All right, Detective Morales," he said, dripping sarcasm. "The stage is yours. Show us all how it's done." The hushed lobby fell completely silent. Every head turned. Lena stood frozen, the handle of her cart suddenly slick in her sweating palm. She was no longer invisible. She was the show. The weight of 24 pairs of eyes felt like a physical force, pressing Lena into the marble floor. A few of the residents whispered behind their hands, their expressions a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. One of them, a tech bro in an expensive hoodie, already had his phone out, discreetly filming. Officer Miller savored the moment, letting the silence stretch until it was almost unbearable. He wanted her to crumble. He wanted her to apologize, to scurry back to her cart, to disappear again. But when Lena simply stood her ground, her dark eyes holding a deep, unreadable calm, his annoyance curdled into something meaner. He decided to raise the stakes. "I'm not kidding," he said, his voice dropping to a low, menacing tone that was somehow louder than his previous shouting. He took a step closer to her. "This is an active investigation. If you're going to waste my time with fantasies and disrupt official police business, there will be consequences. I'll have no choice but to file a report with your employer for obstruction. You understand what that means, right?" The threat hung in the air, thick and poisonous. Her job. Her only source of income, the one thing that kept a roof over her head and her younger brother in community college. It wasn't just a challenge anymore, it was an ultimatum. Fail, and her life would be upended. A memory, sharp and vivid, flashed through her mind. Her father, a kind man with tired eyes, sitting at their small kitchen table years ago. He'd been a detective once, a brilliant one, before a man who looked and sounded a lot like Officer Miller had pushed him out of the force for being too good, for not playing the game. He used to spread old case files on the table, teaching her. "Don't just look, Lena," he'd whisper, his finger tracing a detail on a photograph. "Everybody looks. You have to see. See the patterns. See what doesn't belong. The truth is always hiding in the details people are too proud or too lazy to notice." His voice, a warm echo in the cold, sterile lobby, stiffened her spine. This wasn't just for her job anymore. This was for him. "Shame on him," a woman whispered near the entrance. "Bullying that poor woman." "Well, she should know her place," another countered. "This is what happens." Lena took a slow, deep breath, pulling her father's memory around her like a shield. She lifted her chin, meeting Officer Miller's icy gaze directly for the first time. The fear in her heart was still there, but it was now overshadowed by a quiet, burning resolve. "Okay," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I accept." The smirk on Miller's face faltered. He had expected tears, begging, a full-blown retreat. He had not expected this. He had not expected this quiet, unwavering dignity. And for the first time that day, a sliver of doubt, tiny and unwelcome, lodged itself in his mind. With her simple, "okay," the atmosphere in the lobby shifted. It was no longer a public shaming, it was a duel. Lena Morales, the cleaning lady, let go of her cart. She moved with a newfound purpose, as if she were shedding her uniform of invisibility with each step. The audience watched, captivated. She didn't start by looking for the earring. She started with the details Miller had dismissed. She knelt by the Persian rug, her fingers hovering just above the thin scuff mark. "This isn't from a boot heel or a briefcase," she announced, her voice resonating with a strange authority. "The pressure is too even. It's from a piece of metal, something thin, being dragged sideways." Miller crossed his arms, a mask of condescending patience on his face. "Fascinating. And what does the rug whisper to you next?" Lena ignored him. She rose and walked to the enormous ficus plant. Her eyes, sharp and practiced from spotting countless specks of dust, scanned the broad, waxy leaves. She moved slowly, methodically. Then, she stopped. She pointed to a single leaf about waist-high. Clinging to its edge was something so small it was almost imperceptible, a single, shimmering, silver-blue thread. "What is that?" "A piece of tinsel," someone murmured. Lena carefully plucked it with her short, clean fingernails and held it up to the light. "No," she said. "This is a synthetic microfiber, woven with a metallic filament. The kind they use on high-end luxury pet accessories. To make them sparkle." She looked at Mrs. Harrington. "Your dog, Louis. What kind of collar does he wear?" Mrs. Harrington blinked. "Why, it's a new one. A stardust collar from Lucien Chic. It's studded with Swarovski crystals." A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. The tech bro's phone was now held up openly, no longer trying to be discreet. Miller's confident posture sagged slightly. This wasn't a lucky guess. This was a connection, a bizarre, improbable connection he had completely missed. Lena's gaze then swept the lobby, piecing together a map in her mind. The rug. The plant. The path between them. "Mrs. Harrington, when you noticed the earring was gone, you were standing right there," she said, pointing to the spot by the rug. "And Louis was with you?" "Yes. He was getting restless, pulling on his leash. Okay, Lena said, turning to the doorman who stood near the security console. I need to see the security footage. From exactly 10 minutes ago. Camera 3, the one covering the main entrance. Her request was not a plea. It was a command. All eyes swung to Officer Miller. His jaw was tight, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He was the one in charge, but a cleaning lady was now directing his investigation. The crowd was no longer watching her for entertainment, they were watching him, waiting to see what he would do. Trapped by his own public challenge, he gave a curt, angry nod to the doorman. Do it. Show her the tape. As the doorman's fingers flew across the keyboard, a sense of dread began to pool in Miller's stomach. This was not going how he'd planned. Not at all. The large, flat-screen monitor behind the doorman's desk, usually displaying a serene image of the Apex's exterior, flickered to life. The security feed showed the lobby from a high angle, clear as day. The entire room held its breath. This was the moment of truth. There, Lena said, pointing. Stop. On the screen, a time-stamped image of Mrs. Harrington was frozen. She's not just standing there, Lena explained, her voice calm and instructional. Look at her feet. She's leaning forward, off balance. She's bending down. To adjust her shoe, Mrs. Harrington breathed, her eyes wide with recognition. I remember. My heel was slipping. Exactly, Lena said. Now, play it in slow motion. The doorman complied. The video crawled forward. As Mrs. Harrington bent over, her diamond earring, dangling from her earlobe, swung forward. At the exact same moment, her little dog, Louis, excited by the sudden movement, jumped up playfully. For a single, critical frame, the dog's glittering, stardust collar brushed against Mrs. Harrington's ear. There. Lena almost shouted. Freeze it. The image was grainy but undeniable. The prongs of the earring had snagged for a microsecond on the shimmering fabric of the dog's collar. When she stood back up, Lena continued, her logic relentless, the earring was no longer on her ear. It was attached to the collar. But not securely. She looked at the screen with an intensity that silenced everyone. Now, watch the dog. As the video played again at normal speed, Louis gave a sharp, happy shake of his head, the way all dogs do. Something tiny and bright flew from his collar. It was a brief, almost invisible arc of light. I don't see it on the floor, Miller blurted out, frantically scanning the image on the screen, trying to regain some semblance of control. If it flew off, it should be on the rug. That's because you're looking, officer, Lena said softly, turning away from the screen. You're not seeing. She walked away from the monitor, her steps deliberate, her path taking her not to the rug, but to a dark corner of the lobby. There, standing like a silent, metal sentinel, was a full suit of decorative medieval armor, a piece of ostentatious decor that had stood in the same spot for a decade. The residents barely noticed it anymore. Lena stopped in front of it. It didn't fall down, she said, her voice echoing slightly in the vast space. It flew sideways. She pointed to a small, almost invisible gap between the knight's metal gauntlet and its intricately carved breastplate. It went in there. Just then, the main elevator doors chimed and opened. Mr. Davenport, the impeccably dressed and famously meticulous building manager, strode out, his face a mask of concern over the commotion. What in heaven's name is going on here? He arrived just as Miller, with a look of pure disbelief, pulled a pen from his pocket. Shaking his head in annoyance, he reached into the crevice Lena had indicated, clearly expecting to find nothing but dust. His fingers probed the gap. Then, he stopped. His eyes widened. Slowly, he pulled the pen back out. Clinging to the tip, glittering under the lobby's spotlights like a captured star, was Mrs. Harrington's lost diamond earring. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. It was followed by a moment of profound, thunderstruck silence, before the entire lobby erupted. The silence was shattered not by applause, but by Mrs. Harrington's disbelieving laugh, a sound of pure, unadulterated shock and relief. "Oh, my word," she whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. In the night. Officer Miller stood frozen, the pen still extended in his hand, the diamond winking at him like a tiny, mocking eye. The color drained from his face, leaving behind a pasty, sickly white. He looked from the earring to Lena, his mouth opening and closing silently, like a fish out of water. The smug certainty, the entire scaffolding of his authority, had been publicly dismantled by the woman he tried to humiliate. Mr. Davenport, a man who missed nothing, assessed the scene in seconds, the stunned officer, the relieved resident, and Lena, standing quietly by the suit of armor, the calm epicenter of the storm. He strode forward, completely ignoring the disgraced policeman. He walked directly to Lena. "Ms. Morales," he said, and the use of her formal surname was a mark of respect so profound it was like a coronation. His voice was filled with genuine awe. "That was extraordinary. How could you possibly have known?" Lena finally allowed herself to look directly at Officer Miller. Her gaze wasn't triumphant or arrogant, it was steady, clear, and deeply sad. "My father was a detective," she said, her voice resonating with a newfound strength. "He taught me that to find what's truly lost, you have to look where no one else does. You have to pay attention to the details everyone is trained to ignore." She held Miller's gaze. "Including the people." The statement landed with the force of a physical blow. Miller flinched as if he'd been slapped. I'm sorry," a voice stammered. It was the tech bro, his phone now lowered. "I was filming. I'm so sorry." "No, you're not," said another resident, a stern-looking woman in a business suit. "You should send that video to the police commissioner's office." This officer's conduct was appalling. Ms. Morales's work, however, was brilliant. Mr. Davenport nodded in agreement. He turned back to Lena, a decisive look on his face. "Ms. Morales, the Apex has an opening for a security consultant. The position involves reviewing our procedures, identifying vulnerabilities, and training our staff on situational awareness. It comes with a significant salary increase and full benefits." He didn't even phrase it as a question. "The job is yours, if you want it." Lena's eyes widened, and for the first time, tears welled up. Not from humiliation, but from a wave of overwhelming validation. She thought of her father, of his dusty old files on the kitchen table, and a small, watery smile touched her lips. The applause started then. It wasn't polite or scattered. It was a loud, rolling wave of genuine admiration, started by Mrs. Harrington and quickly joined by every resident and staff member in the lobby. They were clapping for the cleaning lady who had just outthought, outmaneuvered, and outclassed the man who held all the official power. 3 months later, the lobby of the Apex was the same, yet entirely different. The marble still gleamed, but the atmosphere was lighter, the interactions between staff and residents warmer, more respectful. The video, which the tech bro had indeed sent to a local news outlet, had become a minor viral sensation, titled, "Cleaner Schools Cop with Stunning Detective Work." Officer Miller had been quietly reassigned to a desk job in the records department, a bureaucratic exile. Lena Morales no longer pushed a cleaning cart. Today, she wore a simple but professional navy blue blazer and walked with a confidence that seemed to come from her very core. She was in the middle of a training session with a young security guard, pointing to the monitor. "Don't just watch the hands," she was saying, her voice patient and firm, echoing her father's long-ago lessons. "Watch their eyes. Watch how they interact with the space. The truth is always in the small things." Mr. Davenport, true to his word, had not only hired Lena but had created the Lena program, an initiative designed to identify and cultivate talent from within the building's service staff. It was a revolutionary idea, born from the revelation that the most observant eyes in the building belonged to the person who was paid to be the most invisible. Her promotion wasn't just a job, it was a testament. It was proof that a uniform doesn't define a person's worth, and a title doesn't guarantee intelligence. Lena's gift wasn't just about finding a lost earring. It was about seeing the inherent value and potential in people and places that the world so often overlooks. She was no longer a ghost in the machine, she was the one who was helping the machine run better, safer, and with more humanity. Her story became a quiet legend at the apex, a reminder that the person polishing the brass might have a mind that shines even brighter. Lena's story shows us that brilliance, dignity, and incredible talent can be found where we are conditioned to least expect it. It's a powerful reminder that looking down on someone can mean missing everything that truly matters. What do you think? Has someone's hidden talent ever completely surprised you, or have you ever felt underestimated yourself? Share your stories in the comments below, and please, always comment with respect. Everyone has a story worth hearing. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of unseen heroes changing the world, one moment of courage at a time.